Thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, please introducing yourself.
Great to be here. I'm Ryan Breslow, founder and CEO of Bolt and Love.com.
That's great. And for me, this is a bit of a full circle because I remember meeting you back when you were a student at Stanford and you were putting together the Stanford Bitcoin Club, and I remember being impressed with you back then. And obviously, you've done some amazing things since then. Is there anything now that you tell that Stanford student?
Well, I would tell that Stanford student to buckle up. Uh, Building a company is 100 times harder than you could possibly imagine, and to prepare for a sprint and a marathon at the same time.
Those are very wise words, and I can definitely relate to that. So can you tell me about Bolt?
Bolt is a one-click checkout platform. We have a network of 80 million shoppers, soon growing to 150 million. One of our missions is to end guest checkout on the internet. So we provide very comprehensive payment flows, payment tools that are deeply embedded in our one-click network, where if someone's going through a Bolt-powered checkout, we recognize the user, we log them right in. And Bolt supports e-commerce, e-ticketing, e-sports, gaming, app developers, game developers, and a whole host of use cases.
How long ago did you come up with the idea for Bolt, and how did it come about?
I have been building Bolt for about 11 years now. So I came up with the idea to start a Bitcoin wallet, dropped out of Stanford, stereotype to a T. Ended up losing the banking bids to a couple banks, to Coinbase actually. And I said, you know what? I want to just build something that looks like if Stripe and if PayPal had a baby, right? A large shopper and wallet network with payment infrastructure attached. And we're well on our way to doing that. And ultimately, I did want to launch a financial and crypto super app. So think
Mhm.
of like a Coinbase meets like a Chime or Revolut. And that's the Bolt Finance and crypto super app is weeks away from launching.
Okay, wow, that sounds exciting. And what obviously like super apps have gotten great traction in Asia. Like how do you think about a super app for the US market?
Well, what I tell people is the US has a really trailblazed FinTech 1.0, but we're so far ahead in many regards that other parts of the world, whether it be Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, have actually leapfrogged the US
Mhm.
with these super apps and FinTech apps that just are way easier than what we have in the US. We have sophistication in the US, but we have hyper fragmentation.
Mhm.
And so our vision for the super app has been in almost all of our decks, from our seed A, B, C, D, E decks. The super app has been in there as our plan on what to do after we had tens or hundreds of millions of wallets. And while super apps are a new thing, or maybe a bit of a craze right now, we've actually been thinking about it for over a decade and are excited to bring it to life.
I love how you sort of broke it out in terms of like sophistication and fragmentation. Um, obviously, fragmentation is a big challenge in terms of like trying to get a unified experience. Like how have you been able? I mean, the fact that you have 80 million customers sounds amazing. Like obviously, like you've had some interesting experiences trying to fight that fragmentation.
Yeah, definitely. Our 80 million customers is very considerable. We have almost half of active US shoppers
Mm.
on our network. So we can launch a checkout flow on Sanjib's surfshop.com,
Yeah.
and 43 out of 100 people will actually be identified as an existing wallet holder and use their one click to log in. So they'll have a one click experience on your site if you're using Bolt. So we have this massive wallet network. The wallets are actively being used for one click shopping. And now that natural extension is our super app. The super app has not been easy to build. It's been an extreme level of challenge, but there's a lot of amazing partners and tools that we've been able to leverage to build this to speed up our roadmap. And we still have had to glue it all together, and that is the compliance and the banks and all of that has been an immense challenge, but we are almost there.
Almost there. And it's uh, I can imagine that you've had a lot of sleepless nights getting to this point.
I've had a lot of sleepless nights. That is very accurate. And then when I finally do sleep, I sleep for a long time. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
have 12-hour night sleeps. So some nights are sleepless, some I sleep for a long time. I try to catch up on my sleep when I can. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've been banging my head against the wall and pulling my hair out on Bolt for over a decade.
Yeah.
From the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, this business has been fought, hard fought, blood, sweat, and tears, but I've never been more excited about where we're going.
And I know that, part of the things that can reduce that insomnia are, technology questions or regulatory compliance questions or, customer adoption questions. Like how, uh, how is there sort of a North Star that you have, like, as you try to navigate a lot of this uncertainty that you've been navigating both through?
Well, we want to be the super app of North America.
Mm.
And so, when we have a goal that's that ambitious, as you said, we have to do everything right. We have to do compliance right, regulatory right, the tech, the user experience, the go to market. So yeah, I'll be lying in bed and this thing from legal or this part of the user experience will just come to me. And so it's a all-in experience bringing something like this to life. Obviously with AI and software tools, apps are getting easier to build, but not necessarily financial apps. These you can't just plug in AI to build these apps. We have AI layered into many aspects of this app, but it is very much still an intensive, hands-on, tedious process.
You mentioned the buzzword of the moment, AI, or for the past few years, I'd say, and that's obviously you're potentially very empowering. Also, there's a lot of potential pitfalls with that, and in terms of um, like, so for example, like, there's talk about like AI agents and like how are you viewing AI, and how does it sort of fit into like how you look at the technology stack?
AI is obviously very valuable, very powerful. We announced a major partnership with Palantir where we're
Mhm.
bringing AI to payments and checkout.
Mhm.
So we announced Checkout 2.0, which is the world's first intelligent checkout. You can go to bolt.com/intelligent checkout and check it out. Where we use our 10 years of wallet network and shopper data to archetype a user and model users coming through our payments flow, identify what their interests are, and adjust the UI, whether it being the type of payment methods we choose, or discounts, or product bundles, or the UX of the experience. And so, we were making a huge bet in AI on our B2B business through our partnership with Palantir. And now we're also bringing it to our super app. Some of these are not announced yet, so we'll be announcing them soon, but some AI charged consumer tools to help consumers with their payments and finances.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting, and I will definitely keep my eyes open for that. And when looking at AI, there's obviously like a big potential for personalization, which Checkout 2.0 does talk about quite a bit. Um, well, what can be personalized, and is there anything that shouldn't be personalized?
Personalization is definitely the key word for commerce. I
Mm.
think the only site that can do personalization properly today is Amazon.
Mm.
You go there, they know everything about you. It's kind of like magic, the products that they recommend or the journey they send you on. The rest of the internet doesn't have the data, the history, or the tech, right? Even if you have the data on the users, Well, most companies, even the world's largest, can barely get their site to work seamlessly, right? Let alone dynamically. So what we have is our checkout OS, which is our operating system. So we can actually we have the data, we have the modeling, and now we can dynamically adjust our checkout operating system to display differently depending on the user. So we're democratizing this, traditionally only reserved for Amazon, hyper personalized shopping experience. Bolt is in our mission to democratize commerce and level the playing field for independent businesses of all sizes. We're democratizing this for all business owners. And it's going to be no different on the consumer side. We think that AI is going to give consumers abilities to manage their own money that traditionally only the most sophisticated players had.
As far as checkout 2.0, is that live yet, or is it in the works? What sort of?
Checkout 2.0 is live. It's in production. It's processing a lot of transactions. We're showing significant lifts, particularly in AOV, where our models have actually helped sell more products, more targeted, personalized, fitting products to the users going through it. So what we're telling the market for anybody who wants to use Checkout 2.0, we have new customers on board and we have existing customers who are switching over, is you use Bolt, our shopper network, or Checkout 1.0, you're going to see a 5% lift in conversion. If you use Checkout 2.0, you're going to see an additional 5% lift in AOV. So we're talking about a total of 10% revenue lift guaranteed. And, that's definitely raising a lot of eyebrows and getting a lot of people integrating. We have a very unique contracting philosophy. We have no contract lock-ins. I don't think there's anyone else in the payments or commerce space that does that. For businesses of all sizes, even our enterprise businesses, we are so confident in the performance of our product. We're not going to lock you into a 1, 2, or 3-year commitment. Use our product. If it works, you're going to keep it on forever. And if it doesn't work, you're going to turn it off.
So, and I've seen this in multiple really successful companies. Is not only do they have like a disruptive technology, but they have a disruptive business model, and like what you just talked about is like so counter to the way that things have operated in this industry. What's been the response like when you bring that up? I imagine it's maybe a bit of incredulity or
Well, it inspires trust
no.
ultimately because if our product didn't work, we'd be trying to sell them really good and then get them locked in,
Yeah,
right? But our
yeah,
product works so well, you don't have to take our word for it. It's, follow, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're
yeah,
putting it in our terms. Terminate anytime, right? So ultimately, this inspires trust.
yeah.
The payment industry has really been very aggressive on contracting. It is souring a lot of their clients who don't like how much they're being locked into these contracts. And Bolt is a breath of fresh air.
That's a great way to put it. And I know that obviously, you keynoted at FinTech Meetup earlier this year, which was absolutely amazing. And since then, I keep on hearing the headlines about great companies that you've been partnering with. Can you talk a little bit maybe about your partnership strategy and how do you manage partnerships?
Yeah, partnerships are always a tricky subject, right? A lot of them sound good at face value and, don't end up working out. So, I just have a lot of experience on good partnerships versus bad partnerships. And my philosophy is it's got to be a 100% fuck yes on both sides, right? Sorry for my profanity, but it's got to be a
No
fuck
problem.
yes on my end personally for Bolt for the partner,
Yeah,
right? If it only makes sense for you, it doesn't make sense for them, it's not going to stand the test of time. So partnerships are so tricky, so hard to get right that it's got to be an absolute 100% yes on both sides. It has to be well negotiated, right? Our partnerships that we've announced were negotiated over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Mhm.
just to make sure we've planned for every edge case and expectations were set clearly up front. So the key to doing partnerships is being extremely thoughtful, being extremely diligent with terms, and ultimately having a very strong game plan for success.
And what are the type, we've got a lot of listeners who are in the fintech space, even like banks and credit unions or even service providers. What are the types of partners that Bolt might be looking for, and what's sort of the best way for them to engage?
Well, we're looking for partners who can make our checkout and payments business better,
Mhm.
right? Product partnerships we're open to. We're open to uh, client partnerships, folks who can bring us a lot more clients, whether it's referrers or agencies or processors who want to resell our software, right? These type
Mhm.
of reseller relationships are great because we're not really a processor. We have a bunch of processors underneath us
Mhm.
that we route our merchant accounts to. So as a result, we're actually very complementary to a large scale processor who doesn't have all the software that we have, but is really
Mhm.
good at the payment side. We also, are open to partnerships around our super app as well. So, anybody can shoot me an email, ryan@bolt.com. Happy to redirect you to the right folks internally. And, we're definitely open for business.
Yeah, that sounds great. What was your fintech meetup experience like?
Fintech meetup was awesome. It was actually, this is a full circle moment for me as well because I gave my first kind of coming out talk or coming back as CEO of Bolt talk at Fintech Meetup. And it was the first time I talked about certain things that went down over the last 3 years. So it was great to give the keynote there. The reception was amazing. We had 1 million people come up to us after the talk. And the response was great. It was the perfect platform for my re-entry to Bolt, and I can't wait to do so much more with you guys.
That sounds wonderful. And once again, we were honored to have you there and have that be the reentry point for you. Closing this out, what do you see ahead for the industry? And like what there's obviously you're at the forefront of a lot of these technologies. What should we be looking ahead for?
Well, I'm maybe a little bit biased, but I think a super app will dominate in the US and North America. I think it will be Bolt. I think that's one thing that is coming. Um, I think that, I've alluded to some of the things earlier here, which is I think payments is about to be very disrupted. I think the old guard, who's typically looked invincible with regards to payments, are no longer as invincible as they once were, whether that's processors or wallets. I think there's going to be a lot of disruption in payments. I think there's going to be a lot of disruption in crypto trading, in investing. A lot of these consumer services that were once very difficult to build and only one company could build are now there's a lot of competition. So I think we're going to see a lot of competition and a lot of disruption across crypto, payments, fintech. It's merging with AI. And I think it's going to be a very exciting few years ahead.
Well, that does sound like amazingly exciting. And thank you again, Ryan, for joining us today.
Pleasure is all mine, Sanjib.